For the inside of the album, now we're going to start decorating. So we just made our little pencil that is for your ABC. Now for the inside of the album, if you're doing it with the ABC, what I used was the red polka dots. It's this one right here. And I put it behind this, and then I put it back down behind here. So see, you have the border showing when you put your pages down. So those are the two you will use. And if you've already put the pencil down, then you can choose to go ahead with the postage stamps. I put them there, and it will eventually go over here. So that's what I use for my middle pieces. For the album that we're doing, that I'm decorating here for the recipe albums, I'm using this checkerboard. So if you bought the paper kit, or if you already have some of this at home, what I'm using is a piece from Mother Goose. I really liked the checkerboard, and this kind of reminded me of a checkerboard floor in a 1950s kitchen. So I cut mine to fit, and I went ahead and inked them, but we'll go ahead and put them down together. So I'm using the checkerboard, and then I chose to use the cherries. The back side is the green stripe from Times Noveau. And so this will go in the middle, but I'm going to set it aside because I'm not going to do my middle piece yet, because there is going to be a flap. So I'm just going to set this one aside. I'm not going to put it on, but I went ahead and cut just shy of the 2 and, because these are 2 7, well, 2 3/4. And I just want to have that like 1/8, probably 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. So I'm going to start with this end piece, and for me, using score tape, I am going to go ahead with a 3/8 of an inch, and I did ink my edges. And for this, I'm using Vintage Stain from Tim Holtz. And you're going to want extra tape when we're going over the top of the magnets. We want to make sure it's going to stay down. So I am going to go ahead and add 2 extra pieces down the middle on the magnet side here. And I want to make sure it's all down. Now I'm going to go ahead with my bone folder, and I'm going to actually crease my tape down a little bit around that magnet. Before I take it off. So you should have it nice and tight around those magnets. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure our cherries are going down. Now with that extra tape there on those magnets, keep a hold of your paper because it's going to snag it. Let me tell you, it's going to grab a hold of it. Now, with my fingers, I'm just going to rub around those magnets really well. And I'm not going to really use the bone folder because you don't want to poke a hole. You'll feel there's a little bit of a space there between the papers. You just don't want to poke a hole with your sharp end of your bone folder. So I am just going to use my fingers. And I'm going to go ahead, and you'll see me use this a lot. And if you, like I've mentioned in other videos, but I don't know if you've seen them, if you really like this Cricut tool, or if you have a Silhouette, I'm not sure if they have the tools. I use the tools more than the machine. Anyway, this is a great tool to have because you have a nice rounded blunt end, and it's great for going over these little bumpy things. And I use it to make flowers. I do all kinds of things with this little tool. So that should be down nice and firm, no gaps. Nothing sticking up. There, we have that piece. So what I did is I cut mine 8 7/8 by 8 7/8 square, because this is 9 by 9. And again, it is the cover, and I want to make sure it's secure down. So I'm going to go ahead And I'm just going to take my 3/8 around the edge. And then to save the smaller tape, I'm just going to grab my 1" and add 3 pieces to the middle. Bring that all down. Start sticking to my pages with this much score tape. Then I want to line that up. And just put that right down. Okay, and then our next big piece that's going to go in the center. And you'll notice if you watch many of my videos, I do put a lot of tape. I don't want to say I overuse the tape, but I just know that this is going to have some extra weight on it with the pages, and we don't want our waterfall, you know, pulling this up. So if I was using a wet adhesive, you know, I'd get it pretty good without saturating my paper, if that's what you're using. Just lining up from top to bottom. And on to, now for the inside, what I've done, and I need to back up here now to show you, I'm using the Times Noveau, and I already did show that we're using some extra papers, for instance, the checkerboard, which is a Mother Goose. Now for the extra sheets, and these are available, and they'll be on the website. I'm using 2 sheets from Typography. And the nice thing is, see how well they go together? So these were some that I found that went well with what we're using. And I will be using this one. It's from Good Old Sport, Play Ball. And Victory from Good Old Sport. And this one's from Typography. So if you have any of this paper or you need to buy it extra, then I have it as a kit in Scribe, or you can buy the separate sheets, and the pricing, they're 85 cents a sheet, and so they are available on the website, or you can buy the paper line Times Noveau along with this, and then you get the little printouts and different things that I'm using. And this one is also from Typography. So if you have these papers now and you've not known what to do with them, now you have some projects you can work on. So in the original video, we did this flap, and when it opened, there was the 2 pockets. Because this is also a customer order, and I'm kind of making some changes because the customer asked. So I'm going to add another flap that goes on the top. It will open like this, and then it's going to open this way. Now there's going to be a pocket on here. So we're going to go ahead, and I cut this. So if you do want to add it along with me, this is 8.5 by 8. So you're finished after you score it 1/2. Will be 8 inches by 8.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my score tape. Now on the inside, actually it was just from a scrap piece, and it was a 4-inch piece, and I cut it down to 9.5. Then I did my scoring just like we did for the other pockets, the 1/2 inch on 3 sides, and that's going to sit right inside, just about 1/16 of an inch away from our fold. And there will have to be another magnet on here, up here at the top. For my closure. And then after this project, after we get all done with the decorating, then I'll do the video for the cover. And I have another fun project for October called the Square Pumpkin. So let's go ahead and we'll put our magnets down, just like we did in the video on all the other pockets. And I'm just, again, putting this score tape over the top. So now we have a new fold down like this, pocket, and then it will flip up. So that does give a little bit more room for some pictures that she wants to add. And let me bring this up because I know we're working with, there we go, a bigger book. So for this outside cover, what I did is I cut my piece of paper, and this was the extra sheet, and I had to cut my little cutout a little bit more. So if you have received, or if you're getting the paper kit, then you'll want to cut you might want to cut this down. I'll go ahead and pre-cut it for you, and then you can cut it again to fit. So if you're not going to make this extra cover, it'll fit without cutting it down on the original, because this first flap is actually a little bit larger. So let's go ahead, and I'm still using my goodness, which one is this? Walnut stain. Okay, good thing I caught that. I hit the mouse like I did on the other, but I caught it, saved the video so I can keep going. So I need to watch where I'm putting my stuff. So once again, we're just going to add our score tape. Now on this back piece, we don't have to worry so much because we're not going over the top of magnets. I still will put another piece down the middle, but I won't worry about putting two. Make sure I'm not going upside down. And there we have that inside cover. Now over here, I'm going to go ahead with this one. And like I mentioned when we were constructing the album, you're going to want to decide your orientation. Do you want it to open like a book, and then you're going to have side pockets? And you could also put the flap, if you want, your pockets still to open this way, but come this way. So the other thing about using this checkered paper, it's really great for lining up on. Let's go ahead and get our back all prepared with the adhesive. Okay. Now you can, you may have already marked if you want to make sure you're lining this up perfect. I'm just eyeballing it, you know, from left to right, getting pretty much hopefully the same amount on each side. Now if you're really talented, you know, you probably could have put border strips underneath there. But I never know how straight I'll get something, so I just covered the whole thing. And if you did order the paper collection to go exactly with this album, then you would have gotten the 3 extra sheets of the checkered. So you've got plenty if you want to just cover the whole thing. I just want to make sure everything's going to be down. We have that side down. Now we need to get this side down, which is our waterfalls. And I had already put the adhesive, I believe, in the last video. So I'll go ahead and remove the backing. Okay, now this is the same size as your right hand side, so I do want to have it somewhat about the same. And you might see my head get in the way up here, so looks like I'm going to match almost to the top. Pretty close. Now my hand is underneath here, so I'm only really pushing down on my top piece. Alright, get that stuck where I want it. Bring the camera back. I did hit it with my head. Bring that down. Now after you set it down, I'm going to open this back up. Pushing down firmly to get that completely stuck, and then I'm just going to go along here on the waterfalls. Oh, okay. I hope I didn't just mess you up totally. This was also the spot where, so I will put an edit. Hopefully I can get that edit right in here. This is where you would have wanted to put your ribbon. you'll put your ribbon on the back side, I should have mentioned. So if you are going to do ribbon, make sure you have that ribbon on here before you put it down. If you're not going to, and so you're just going to use a magnet. That's where we want to go ahead and get our magnet on this first one down. This is always the fun part, trying to get those backs off. And like I mentioned, you really don't have to put any more magnets down because the weight will hold those down. But that top one, you definitely do not want it flopping around. Just put another piece on top of there, and that will hold that down. Now, if you've already done this, maybe you didn't catch where I put in, you know, to put your thing down. You still can put one of these flaps down if you decide that you want a magnet that holds here. And so you would just choose whatever size you want, score it about 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and then it would just lay on top. Now you would put a magnet here, and then just one on this bottom one right there, and that would probably be enough to catch it. Or you can just slide it up. You could slide this up, attach it to this pocket here, and then mat it, and you wouldn't even see it, and it would actually, that would also work. So you could go that route. So maybe as you're building this, as we're decorating it, you find that maybe you do want something there, then you still, you know, you still will have time to add it. But once again, in the school one, you can see the weight holds this down pretty nice. Even once you start putting things that are sort of heavy into your pockets, I found the weight still holds them down nice. So you still have time to decide if you want to go that route. So now we just need to get started decorating our left-hand side. Let me move this one out of the way. Okay, I'm taking the score tape off. I will be stopping the camera because I know you don't want to see me put score tape all around the edges. And then we're just going to center it on. Make sure nothing's sticking over our edges. Now when I'm using a darker stain, because I know me, I like to just use my bone folder because I do have a tendency to get it on my fingers, smear it everywhere. And then on the printout, mine is actually just on paper. If you bought it in the paper kit, it will be on a cardstock. I did take my ink around the edges to give it more of that aged look. And because I'm working with paper, it's not quite as sturdy. So I'm going to line this up. See how well that extra paper goes with it. It's from the typography, and the nice thing is it will stretch your Times paper because it only comes in the designer collection since it's a re-release, and you don't want to have to waste all your paper. So now we'll do the inside. Now for the inside, I know that she wants this top part. It's going to have, we're going to make photo mats so she can have pictures of whatever she's going to put in there. And for the inside, So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the Sitting Pretty. And when I do my pockets, I already know we'll need to cut at the 8.5, but we're going to, of course, take an 1/8 of an inch off. And I don't want to, let me turn this the right way. I don't need to cover all the way unless you really want to, but I don't. I figure about 1 inch or 2 inches down in. So I'm going to cut it 8.5 by 6. Sorry, I just am trying to get things lined up here. Okay. So 6 by 8.5. And then for the pocket, then I'm going to use this back side, the blue. And I know that this was 4, so I should have to cut it 3.5. Yeah, by the 8.5. Well, I messed that one up, didn't I? It's 3.5 on mine. I hope you didn't cut yours, and I apologize if you did. So what I'm going to do, I'm still going to go ahead and use this. And this will be our opportunity to make a cute ruffle border with some of the red. So I'm going to cut a piece of the red. And I'm just going to cut about 2 inches or 1.5 inches, it looks like, for mine. And you can decide, you can either, maybe I won't even cut that isn't ruffled. You can definitely cut that in a ruffle. Maybe we will. We'll use a little scallop border. And because this is going to be used a lot as a recipe album, I don't want to use a punch that's too frilly because you don't want it to tear apart. So I'm going to go ahead and just use a scalloped. One that's a little more sturdy, and I know that it's gonna hold up. To the use, especially in the kitchen. Okay, we got it that time. Missed. There we go. That's the nice thing with paper crafts. Everything is always fixable. So now the blue will go down. And my border will go across. And if you noticed in your Times Noveau pack, you did have some stickers, so we may even put the yellow sticker that goes across. But what I'm going to do is I like to mat everything first. I like to get everything nice and matted, and then I go back, and that's when I start decorating. So now I need to grab another piece of paper that will coordinate well with all those colors that we've just used. So I'm going to use the Swinky, it's called, because that has all of our colors that are in all the other designs. And again, we did this one the 8.5 by 7.5. And I didn't want it to be, you know, too decorative because I am going to put photo mats. And one thing when we go to do our photo mats, then that's when maybe we can bring the coordinating stripes back in to tie this all together, because we're not going to do huge photo mats, or I'm going to do probably 4x3, and we'll put one here, we'll put one here, and then we'll use a sticker that'll go in between the photo mats. And I'm going to round my corners. And of course, if you want to use a plain cardstock or something different. So this is 4 by 3 1/4. And then I'm going to go ahead and round my corners. Get things together here. So we slid a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and ink everything, and I'll score tape it, and when I come back we'll get started on putting all our mats down. Okay, let's start with the pocket piece. Now when you're using score tape on pockets, just a word of warning, it likes to suck it down quick. Now on this one, because it's a larger pocket, I am going to put a bottom piece. I'm putting score tape on all 4 corners. I don't always put score tape on that bottom piece or on that bottom, and as we're going along you'll see why. It just is easier to get your page matted without that score tape. Now I keep my fingers back there as always. I get my paper down, line it up, push it down with my thumbs, and then I take my fingers out. Larger pockets are much easier, of course. Next is our pocket. Wow. There we go. And if you cut your piece of paper the correct size, you won't have to put the scallop edge on unless you like the way it looks. You still can add it by just putting it on top of your paper. So I'm going to put this just straight down. And then on my scallop, I just put one across the top and one where the scallops meet. Now this can go either way. If you want a little bit of the brown showing, you can have your scallops up. You can have your scallops down. And I'm just going to match it with the edge and have mine down. And I really like the way that looks actually. So now for our bottom, let me scoot this up. So you can see as you're working with this Times paper how it can double as for recipes, because we have all of the horseradish, tomato, lettuce, the words on there. And remember to stay away from that score line there so your page will close. Now for my photo mats, it's up to you. You can go ahead and of course measure if you are more comfortable. And I'm just getting my sticker sheet out here because I am going to want to add I'd like to add it just about here, but what I like to do is, because I want to have the clock, but I'm going to put this first on. You should have just a scrap piece of paper, because I'm going to put it on a pop dot, or you're going to just put glue in the middle of it. That way you can slide a picture underneath. Sorry, I just had to grab my scissors. So I'm just going to now cut around the sticker. Some of that. There we go. And also it gives it more dimension, so it doesn't look like it was just a sticker. And then we'll go ahead and ink those edges. And grab one of my pop dots. Like I mentioned, it's just going to go in the center. So when it is down, you can still slide your picture in there. So let's go ahead and remove the score tape. And I'm just using actually the red lines where it intercepts. I can't speak tonight, sorry. Intercepts each other. To line my mats up. Okay, let's take our backing off. And another thing, if you don't have any pop dots, your hot glue gun actually works really well. Just give it a squirt there, because it will also give it just a little bit of dimension in the center. Then we put that down. Now if the recipient wants to add a picture, so you can still slide your picture now underneath there and get full use of the mat. Now for my pocket, on this particular, I'm going to have a mat in here that's 8 wide by 5. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that now. And I don't usually decorate my mats till the end, because I like to use the leftover paper. And the reason I went with 8 by 5, it's more of a long, skinny, more, you know, the looks of a recipe. And then it doesn't get in the way of the magnet. And then I can put more recipe cards in there also. So there's that part. Closes nice. Has just a little dimension with the pop dot. And we can now go to our inside. So again, you're going to have another nice big space up here for pictures. And then we'll have our 2 pockets that will fit our recipe cards that come with the paper pack. Really nice. So you'll see that you will have some of these fun recipe cards that we'll be using inside of here. When I'm taping the bottom here for the pockets, I am not going to tape. I'm only going to do the 3 sides. Okay, I did it again. I'd hit the keyboard. And so let me show you what I had done. I cut my green piece, which is the wallflower, and I cut it to fit here, which is 8.5 by 8. And then I cut my first one, which is the hot tomato, and actually it will be the tomatoes. I cut it 4 inches, exactly 4 inches by 8.5. Now for for these two, they're also 4 inches by 8.5. Now let me show you. Like I said, I hit the keyboard. I've got to figure something different out here. So with our envelope punch board, I put this in and I punched it between the 5/8 and the 3/4 of a mark. So it was right in the middle. And I just turned it over and then punched the other side. So I did that to those two. And I already did that with a template so that I wouldn't have any mess up on the paper with you. Now you can go ahead and do your own template. I would use a black piece of, just a scrap piece of paper, and go ahead and cut it. You don't even have to cut it the 4 inches. If you just have something that's a couple of inches wide that you can make your punches on your scoreboard, and then you'll put them down with the ruler like we did when we made the pockets and cut that center out. And you'll see it should fit perfect. Now we'll go ahead and I'll ink my edges, and we'll get the score tape on, and we'll come back on, and then we'll adhere everything down. Oh, when putting the score tape on, I think I mentioned this when we backed up. I won't be putting it on the bottom of this middle pocket or the top pocket. I'm only going to put the score tape on 3 sides. Okay, so we've got all the tape on. All that removed. Don't forget your magnet up at the top. And make sure we're going the right way, which we weren't. I was not. Okay, so our first pocket is just our straight. We didn't have to cut this one at all. And this is what I was talking about. It's going to be a little bit tight. And if you remember, this is our long pocket. It actually goes all the way to the bottom. So we don't need to cover all the way to the bottom. And this is where it's a little tricky. That's why I don't put score tape on the bottom of my paper. And I do love the Cartabella because it's a little bit forgiving. It gives me a little room to move my paper until I've really adhered it, really squished it down. Okay, let's do our middle pocket now. It's putting the tape on, and I got a little rambunctious, but this is why Graphic 45 is famous for cracking for some reason, or tearing. It comes off really easy with the score tape. So I did remove it though because I don't want it there. And I'm just going to pull the pocket up. Keep my fingers back there. It gives you that leverage while you're lining it up. Put it down where it looks good to you. And see, that paper's down. It's, even though you don't have score tape, it's still secure and it will stay down. And this one I did put on all 4 sides. Now on this one, we're going to have a big photo mat. And it's going to be 7 inches because I need to go all the way to the bottom. So it's going to be 7 inches by 8. So I'm going to cut that piece really quick. See how nice that's going to sit down in there? And then she'll have a really big mat to pull out. You can also make this as a little booklet if you would like. And maybe add another piece of paper on there. But I'm just going to do it as a photo mat. Now we're going to go ahead and put our other photo mats inside, which are actually going to be the recipe cards. Now for this particular album, because we don't have any ephemera cards to work with, we're going to actually mat. We're going to mat these because I want to put 3 in. I'm going to use I'm going to use these 3. Or you can put all 4. It's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my 4x6 cards. Now there's the border that's around here. And, excuse me, for this particular album, I'm going to just cut that off. Because I'm going to use the craft paper and I'm going to actually mat these. Just a little more. My big cutter, sometimes it's hard to see right up to the edge, and I don't want to cut too much off. That's why I'm using my smaller one. And I need to just cut one more. And I'll just clean up those edges. Now these are 4x6, so I'm going to cut my mats because I want them to be bigger, of course. I'm going to cut them 6 and 2/8 by 4 and 2/8. You're going to need 3 of those, and you should have plenty of scraps hanging around. And you can either just put your scraps there, measure it, and then cut it. Take a little more off the top. And being that these are recipe cards, see the back, you really can't write on them or do anything with them. So I need to cut 2 more. And you should have, again, you might have plenty of scraps laying around. And if they work, but those won't. So I'm going to do it this way. Just double check. It's going to be a little bit big since I cut down my card with the border. Just trim that up a little bit more. And so I cut it too short. Well, I'm not measuring too well tonight, am I? Okay. Yay, there we go. Let me cut one more. Just a little too short. measure it, and I'll just cut it before I bring it back to the camera. So I would suggest after if you're going to clean up your edges like I did, maybe remeasure it so you won't have to cut so many times. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and ink my edges and get the score tape on, and we'll put those in, and we'll mat them, and then we'll put them inside of our album. Okay, now we mat all of these, our recipe cards. One, let me tell you how this album came to be. Actually, I made a smaller one for my mother also, and then I realized this would be great for the ABC. But the lady that is requesting this for her daughter, she needed a recipe album where when her daughter cuts out recipes from the magazines, she had a place that she could put them until she was ready to put them on cards. And so when she asked me to do the envelopes, I thought, wow, I was already thinking of this one for a school, so it would really be a cute recipe album. And that's how the recipe album part came to be. And then my mother actually saw this, and she went crazy because that's what she was looking for, somewhere that she could put recipes after she had cut them out of the magazine and didn't quite have time to, you know, write them down or put them how she wanted to. So this is also going to be, like I've mentioned before, perfect gift for Christmas for my 3 new daughter-in-laws. And it really doesn't take that long to make. It's a quick little, it is actually a quick large album, but it looks like it took a lot longer to make. So we have our cards in here. Now this one, you know, is probably more of a journal, or you can put the recipe back here. And again, I won't go back and mat these until I'm done. One thing I do want to mention, if you're following along and you want it, okay, if you want it to go into the pocket, what are we catching on? There we go. It's not down all the way. Nope. Well, we're going to leave him out for right this moment so I can find out what's wrong. If you are going to follow along on the cover, I should mention this, or if you're just kind of doing your own thing, but then you want the cover to be similar, this is going to probably be on my cover. So we did use this piece already, but I will save this because I'm thinking that I want this to be on my cover for this particular album, just to give you a heads up in case you are following along. So there we go. So there is our left-hand side, which I think is pretty cute. I love the printout. And nice big pockets. Kind of, actually that reminds me of an apron pocket. And I will do a little more decorating. In fact, I think I will cut out just a small, we'll make a little envelope with our envelope punch board to go there. Nothing too big. We don't want this to not close. And here we have the rest of that. And I need to look inside here and see what I've done to see why this is catching. Okay, we'll solve this problem. We're just going to cut a little bit off. So if yours isn't going down all the way either, I just cut it off. There we go. I guess it's wanting to catch on this bottom pocket. I must not have done something correct there. Now, like I said, this I'm going to do last. Because one reason what I'm putting there, I don't want to disturb it and ruin it. Because there will be a pen so that you'll have access to it. And I don't want to mess it up while we're working on the album. Because it is sort of bulky. Now, we've got a magnet on this first one. So I mentioned earlier I was putting pockets. I did not put a pocket on this first one, but I did go ahead. I got all my other ones put on. I did the one pocket, and actually I found out I don't need to put another flap at the top because I was going to add another flap. Things stay in just fine with it folding over. So I'm not going to put that extra flap, which helps not only with the bulk, but it also helps with if I start adding magnets, then I'm going to have that problem where the magnets are moving my pages. So each one does have that pocket. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to get my papers all cut, and you'll see exactly which ones I'm cutting, and I'll reference to this one. Oh, for here. Let's do that now. So I used the ABC, the number one, and then I just used the blue check. Now for the pockets, this red one is inside of the ABC, and I also used the red to line the back, and then I cut a piece of the ruler off for the side, and then I used the black, which is actually a typography, and that's where this black came from, was from the typography. Then I just made the big photo mat using the typography red stripe that we used on our recipe album, and then I made the photo mat. Now this photo mat's smaller because this album was a little bit smaller, so this one's 5x4, but you could actually make, you could make a really big one, 6x5 if you wanted. You could even go 7x5 and have a full-size picture. And then the ABC paper pack, you'll see the sheet that has all the different ABC squares. And I just cut those out, and I did map the backs to fit inside the pockets. And let me just go through. So if you're doing the ABC, this is in your ABC paper pack along with that. And of course this one, now this is the typography. And I shouldn't have used this. I apologize. It was an extra sheet I just had laying around, but I would go ahead and maybe put your typography red stripe inside, which is also on this side. And then I just used the checker, the stamps, and that's ABC and that's ABC. And then here we have the typography, and this is all ABC except for this one. This is that Good Old Sport, and it will be extra in your paper pack. No, excuse me, it's typography. So if you have a sheet at home from an older collection, it's the typography one. And again, back here is the typography. You're getting stuck. And I'm just wanting to go through and point out the extra papers. Now this is the Good Old Sport, the stripe. And this is the typography. It'll be your back side of, no, yeah. It is the back side of your red stripe. And again, it's just a really great way to stretch out your paper. And here we have Good Old Sport. And this is just the back side of one of the papers from School Days. I mean ABC, sorry. And you know what? No, this is Mother Goose. That was an extra sheet I had. This is just red. And again, so actually you could go ahead and use your ABC if you don't have any of the Mother Goose. Or I do have some in, and it will be in your paper pack if you're buying this as a paper kit. So that again is our Good Old Sport. Good Old Sport, and then I just used the red. And that's also the Good Old Sport. So I'm just kind of giving you an idea of the extras that I used, which again, if you do buy the paper pack, will be in there. So there is your ABC. And I'm going to go ahead and get my papers cut. Now when you're cutting your your top pieces. All of them will be the 4 by 8.5, but remember, take off that 1/8 of an inch. So we'll get those all cut. We'll come back and we'll get it all put together. We're getting to the tail end now of our album. But one thing, I want to show you a couple of things. For the cover, well, let me back up. Okay, for this album, if you really like it and you want to purchase all the paper, it's going to be available, and I'll try and it'll be up before this, you know, well, I'm making the video, then I'm going to upload it. So I'm trying to get this all up for you. So if you are interested in purchasing the paper that we're using and the embellishments, well, of course, Times Noveau, it comes in a collection pack because it was they brought it, reintroduced it back out because it is a retired line from Graphic 45. So in the paper pack, you do get 2 sets of each sheet and the cut aparts, and then you'll get the sticker sheet and the chipboard, one of the chipboard sheets. And so that will be just in the Graphic 45. Now, the other Graphic 45 papers that I've used are the stripes. And in the paper kit, you'll get 3 sheets of that, and they're all 12 by 12s. And I've already done some decorating, and we're going to go through it together. I'm going to do the top ones. So you can see I've used the red a lot throughout because it really did go with the paper, and it helped extend, you know, our paper. And we didn't have to worry about, are we going to have enough for our cover? But this one from Good Old Sport, you'll receive 2 sheets of that one. And you will receive, let me keep going, I know, oh, and then you'll receive 2 sheets of the plaid. And even, oh, nope, we have a black. Maybe I haven't gotten to it yet because we're going to be still decorating those first couple of sheets together. Oh, right here. And you'll get 2 sheets of this one. So you'll get those extra papers in the paper kit. Plus, you're going to get this printout, and you're going to get this printout, and they are printed out on cardstock, and this is going to be used on the cover. And this one, everything will be cut. This is going to be cut 5 by 7. This one is just going to stay the same, the full sheet, and then you are going to be able to cut it to fit. And what I did is I just cut from the length, and I just took a little off the sides when I made this extra cover. So you'll get those. Now, one other thing that I've done for this album, because we wanted recipe cards, but all the recipe cards in the store are too big, and any others that I've made, oops, let me go to a finished pocket, are too big. So I've got these. Those are the sheet. Okay. And these are actually 3. These are going to be through the 3. I did the 3.5 by 5 so that they will fit inside of our finished pockets. And they will be printed on cardstock. So there's 16 of these. So you'll have enough for 2 for each pocket. And I felt those graphics went really well. And the corners are rounded. So you'll get 16 of those along with the papers that you need. And of course, you've already got your video. So you may even have it done this far. So if you're interested in this, it will be on the website, countrycraftcreations.com. And if you're doing it with the ABC primer, again, it's going to be the ABC paper pack, which has also been reintroduced by Graphic 45. It was retired, and it's the same thing. You get 2 sheets of each paper. Then you'll get all these extras that I used on the ABC album that I showed the other video of. And on that one, you can just follow along with the video when you go to decorate your pockets. And let me just get these put up. What I've already done is I went ahead and I decorated these 4, 5 flaps. And then we'll do the first 2 together. So I can go through a little bit for you so you can see. So this is waterfall number 3. And you'll see all these papers will be in the Times Noveau or the extras. And this is how I chose to decorate them. Oh, and for the pockets, I just used a cream cardstock because it went well with everything, and it's going to have some of our, you know, you may want to put some more of the cutouts. And again, you can have your recipe cards in here also, and they'll fit nicely, whereas the 4x6s will not. And for the back, I just pretty much mimicked the front on that one. This is Times Noveau. So we're all Times Noveau here. You won't need any of the extra sheets. This one will be one of your extras, and also the top. Then I did the cherries, and the stripes went well with the cherries. Now you'll notice on most of the papers, what I like to do is I use the front and then I use the back. So pretty much I can use the whole sheet if cut correctly on like this whole area here, and maybe get one of my flaps. Now this one, you know, I did not, so I kind of improvised, and that's where my extra sheets came in, but they really go really well. The colors even, oh, let me get down here. See how the colors go really well? Even though they're a different line of Graphic 45, they're still the same color schemes. This is the Graphic 45. And I really like this. I know that it may not totally be recipe, but I love the old car, and that we're kind of working here with a 50s look. And for the back, this was a boo-boo. It was supposed to be the black polka dots, but that's okay. I put the tape on the wrong side. And so I will probably take one of our cut-aparts, the Time and Again, or maybe It's the Berries, and I'll put it right here to cover that I cut her head off. So not an issue. And again, we have this plaid and the Times Noveau. Let me see if I can bring this down a little. And then I put the clocks on the side, and then it closes up. What I really like is how the weight of each page holds this down. Now, one thing I did go ahead and do also was I put my 4/8 of an inch by the same width where we were cutting the 1/8 of an inch off strips. So what I did is I just cut a bunch of my strips at 4/8, and then my 3/8. Actually, I went to my 3/8 score tape, had fit back there perfectly. And so after I cut these, so I'll go ahead and show you. Now I had to cut 2 for each page, and then 1 for the very top. So you'll need 2, 4, 6, 16, 17 of these strips, but it doesn't take much paper at all. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the back. And I did not ink these where they're so small. I tend to be extremely messy with small things. Now, if you cut these at 4/8 and you notice you just didn't get your tape quite straight like I do, you'll just want to push it over the edge, just so none of it's sticking up. Try and line it up with that top strip. And you can choose any of the colors you want. I wanted to go ahead with all the same for this one. Now, another thing, do you notice there's also one up here? Now that's up to you if you want to go ahead and cover that area. And I haven't decided if I'm going to or not. I might, but I know one area that I do want to cover. It's going to be this very top piece. And I'm going to cover it when I'm done. Now, I went ahead, like I said, and decorated these so that you wouldn't have to sit through all that. So I cut all my pieces. And what I did is I cut all the pieces to each page. And I had tons of scraps of the off-white. So that's why I just used that for the inside of my pockets. And then I just went through and put them under the flap, and I moved to the next one. So what I've already done is I went through and cut just the 1/8 of an inch shorter, and I went ahead and inked all my pages. And so the first one that I'm going to start with is going to be the cherries. And then I'll put the polka dots at the bottom and the stripes at the top. And remember, this one didn't have a pocket because I have that magnet there. So we can go ahead, remove the tape from here. And most of these I cut 3 7/8 width by just an 1/8 of an inch shorter on the 1/2 inch length. And then when you're putting your pages down, you can decide maybe you do want to add a border inside. You may want to leave it plain. Now I'm going to leave it plain because I want the option of being able to, you know, stick our recipe cards, or you can actually go ahead and pre-stick some in there if you'd like. But you don't want to add too much in the way of embellishments on the inside of these. If you do, you're going to find there'll be no room for recipes. So like I mentioned, we'll go ahead and do the first two now. When we get to the back side, your pockets, if you had used the punch board, let me go ahead and move. If you use the punch board on your pockets, then of course you're going to want to do the same thing here. And again, I cut 1 5/8 away from each edge on my envelope punch board. And I need to go back. Oh, that's right, we didn't have a pocket on this one. And really, you can just lay out the top covers if you'd like on all your waterfall pieces, and then you might even rearrange a little bit to see what you like, to see what looks good, you know, pleasing to the eye. Or you just might want to wing it and just see what you end up with. Now, once again, when it comes to the pockets, I'm only putting score tape on three sides. I'm leaving it off the bottom, and I'm pulling the pocket out towards me so I can get this in, keeping my fingers back there. And I'm gonna have to, sorry, bump the camera so I can get my big head in there. And then for our, see, I gotta make sure we're going the right orientation here. And on your magnets, make sure you remove those score tape pieces. And then I'll probably go back through. I haven't decided. These are pretty heavy. I mean, I printed them on 65 weight. So I don't know if I'm going to back them or not. I don't think I will. That way if the recipient, or maybe you too, want to decorate the pocket and have it there, and so when it flips up, so see, you can add a lot of different combinations. And on the inside here, I probably will use some of my stickers that came with the collection. Stickers are flat, so I don't have to worry about it adding any bulk. Now on these pockets too, you might want to go back. Well, that's not a good example because it's a stripe. You might want to go back and maybe add, I would not use this, but a decorative stripe. And then you could actually put your sticker on top of there. So if you wanted to add a little to the pocket front. And let's go on to this next one. Now on these pocket pieces, like I said, these were basically scraps that I had, you know, for making other albums. So I just cut them 2 1/4 and then just made sure they were the right width to go inside my pocket. One reason that I'm only doing 2 pages with you is it's pretty simple. You've got a lot of straight lines, and I wanted to go on to the cover and be able to do the whole cover with you. And I know these videos are kind of long, so I really am trying not to talk too much and just get through them for you, so you can create. Then I have, I believe, oh yeah, this wasn't down, but let me show you. This is the other piece that you'll get. So you will get, let's see, 3, like, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 extra pieces of graphic 45 paper, along with the Times Noveau or your ABC. You'll get the same papers and the same amount. So you'll be able to stretch your paper line. And you can see I didn't use a lot of those. It was just enough that I didn't have to cut either another sheet, or I could then use the other sheet for another page. Make sure I'm not getting crooked here. No. Start with my pocket. I'll show you something else that's really cool if you haven't noticed with this album when we're done. And I know I've said this 100 times, but if I was using another paper, I would not be able to pull it up like that. And I know I'm kind of at an angle, so things might look a little crooked. Now on some of the cut aparts, such as this one, when I cut it, I had turned it upside down to cut more towards the top so that I got the car in there. And you can do that. Just turn your paper the other direction so you can use the whole thing. And you get all those cool designs. Now, going stripes on the inside. No, I thought I had a magnet there. I forgot for a minute. Now I can show you a little better with this piece of paper. So see, if you want to bring in some color, you could add a stripe of paper, and then you could even, you know, put one of the little magnets. I mean the little buttons. And then again, you could do the same on your next sheet. Now, one thing you probably, if you've been playing with your album, you maybe have noticed something. You can open your album on the counter like such to this other side, and so you bring your next one over, and now you have it more sitting up at an angle. So if you're working on maybe your magazine, the Women's Day magazine came, and you're cutting out recipes, then you can have this open right here. You don't have to sit there flipping it back and forth because it will stay open. Then also, you just tuck that there. And again, you can have it sitting up a little bit so you can see what the recipe is. And you can even, on one of them, I was able to bring it backwards. so that I have it sitting up. This paper is really stiff. So anyway, it will sit up. Get this up here more. Onto that next page. Once your paper, it has to get broken a little bit. So I can have it sitting up and have my recipe there, and I can just pull it out. So this is a really nice, versatile album. And another thing, this might be hard to see, you can have it sitting up on your counter. And then you just bring your page down. Pretend it's sitting up, but you bring your page down, and then you can be reading your recipe while it's sitting on the counter. So now that I have that done, I'm going to go ahead with my top stripe. And try and line it up there pretty good. There we go. Now, we're going to do this one last. I'm going to do the cover first, and we're going to come back and put this inside. And one reason is you will need a hot glue gun. It will work best. And I'm waiting for my hot glue gun to heat up. And then on the front here, you can do a little more decorating. So you might want to bring out your chipboards. You have a little space here that don't be afraid to decorate. You could even add some little flowers in here, which I'll do, and we're going to make those together. So what I've already done is I've cut my covers. And in the beginning I mentioned that you would want this piece. And we're going to use this actually for the back. For my front piece, and you should have this one left, I'm going to use the polka dots. And measure your cover, because mine is a little bit wider than it is long. And I did cut this paper right here. Make sure we have it the right way. So I cut it 8 7/8 this way, and then I cut it exactly 9. Because of our fold over, we had that little extra space. That's going to be the front. Now I'm going to do the back first. And this is going to go on the back. Same thing. It was 8 7/8 long, and then a full 9 wide. And then I'm going to use this piece, which I cut 9 inches long and just short of 2 3/4. Go ahead and measure and see, just to make sure how wide you are. And then I'm going to use this other red piece for the spine, not the closure. So we're going to get started with this. And I'm just going to go ahead and ink those edges. And on the back, I will be using one of the cutouts. I like to use the cutout where they can write on it. So if it's a gift. And on the back here, I'm going to use my 1/2 inch. Because we are dealing with our back cover, and well, in our front cover, and I want to make sure it's going to be down. And then we're going to add, so if you're using your liquid adhesive, don't be afraid to get it in the middle and the sides, just not too wet. I really like using different printouts with my albums. It adds a little different personality than just your paper. And I also like to make my own flowers. I like it to match, but then I will sometimes, buy flowers, and then I'll stick them in between my handmade flowers. We're going to just put that right down. Just check your borders, top sides, make sure it's where you want it. And if you noticed, you probably were thinking we were making such a huge spine, but if you notice now how much this is really filled out inside. And once you start adding more recipe cards, so that's why we needed such a large spine. So now we're going to do this spine part, and that's where I'm going to use, yeah, the red polka dots. Just move this to the side. And 1/2 inch gore tape. Okay, now I'm going to have to put this up on the side, so in order to get everything lined up. Okay, make sure we're going the right way. I have been known to put my covers on upside down. And yes, even though this is black paper, I still ink my edges because with Graphic 45 you have that white core. Some papers you don't, where it's solid all the way through. Just making sure I'm going the right way. Oops. 1/2 inch one more time for the other side. Bring that up just a hair. Just checking one more time. I just don't want to put this on the wrong way. And our closure side. Oh, and we have to do the inside. That's right. So on this inside, we'll need to cut another paper to go on the inside. But we can do that when we do the inside of the book. Now, once again, I'm just going to make sure my cherries are they're kind of going two different directions, but I want them to mostly go up and down. Now, it's up to you. You can make it as wider. I'm going to put some of the red. I'm going to do a ruffle, not a ruffle, the scallop. So I'll be using this one to make that again across there, but I won't do that till we're ready to do all of our decorating. Let me get this one out because we're going to mat it. And so I'm going to get a piece of the, yes, I'm sorry, my brain has fried tonight. I'm going to get the cardstock that I used to make the album, and then we'll go ahead and we'll mat our 5x7 picture. Okay, I cut my mat, and it is just the 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit bigger than my picture. And so I went ahead and I did ink the edges, and I inked the mat. And we're not going to quite put this down yet, but I'm going to go ahead and mat this. Oh, one other thing that, okay, hold on. I have an issue. Okay, let me pay attention to what I'm doing. Okay, one other thing I forgot is this square of burlap will be in the paper and also the ribbon that we use. So what we're going to do with this, we're actually going to use this so it's underneath our picture so that we have some, let me show you. And this I'll show you what we're going to do so that we have some texture underneath here. So what I want to do with this is I'm just actually going to start I'm just going to cut about 1/4 off. I would say actually that's 1 inch. So let's just go ahead and cut 1 inch off, and then you're going to want to expose. This is the messy part. Some of your edges here. We want to give it that tattered look. So when it's under our picture, see, we'll have some tattered look. Actually, it's going to go over here. And then with flowers. So what we're going to do is just lay out the cover. What I did was mat this. We're just going to lay this down. And a couple of things that I'm going to add will be the clock. And it'll be up to you as we're playing with it to decide, exactly where you want it and exactly where you want your flowers. But these will be some of the things. So I start with my picture. And what I did is I cut a strip that's 1 inch by the 8 7/8, so it matches my top paper, 'cause I'm going to have it just over to the side. Now it's up to you too. You can scallop it. You can decorate that edge. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to do some laying out. And we're going to be making some flowers. So what you'll want, and you should have plenty of scrap paper left. Actually, you should have tons. We'll also want, from your sticker sheet, it says Hotsy Totsy. And the first thing I'm going to do with that is I'm going to lay it down on a piece of the cardstock. And then I'm going to fussy cut that out. And the reason I did that, I just want it for strength. Let me bring this camera over so I'm more in the picture. Okay. So I'm just going to cut around there, trim it up. And if you're having a little bit of trouble getting things straight, then just grab your sanding block and get those little pieces off, or you can just go back and trim them. The nice thing is when we use our Distress ink, it hides a lot of the mistakes. Okay. I'll just go around that edge. And then I know that this is going to be going up on the top, so I'll want to bring my picture down a little bit. And I think I'm going to go ahead and remove some more of the fibers. On that side. I want it to look pretty ragged. Okay. Like I mentioned, I just lay everything down first until I do our flowers. So I'm going to set my cover now just over to the left because I'll be going back and forth. And I use my hot glue gun for flowers. And so you can use, gosh, anything, glossy accents, you name it. What I'm going to do is first we're going to punch out, and you should have tons of scraps. And these are my favorite. I like the large one and the smaller one, and they are at Joann's. I know they still have them. And then my McGill. If you don't have Joann's, and to be honest with you, Joann's and Michael's and Hobby Lobby, anytime you order offline, it takes forever to get here. So I use Amazon, or I know Hobby Lobby does have this. It's called the birch leaf, or you can use real leaves, but I will be using some leaves in ours. And so what I'm going to do is just start out by cutting my scraps. And because the cover, if you're using the printout, has greens, I'm basically going to use more of the colors that will go with our printout. Now, when I do my flowers for covers, I use 5 to 7 flowers. Or if you have a cricket or a silhouette, you can go ahead and cut tons of flowers that way. And I thought about having these all ready and done, but then I had a lot of questions on how I do them. So I figured we'll just do them from the beginning. This is also a great way to use up all your scraps. And if you're watching TV or you have kids that love to use your punches, great for them. Let me see if I can get that to fit in there. No. So we're just going to keep a cutting. Or you can use the store-bought flowers. Kind of just your personal choice. Let me cut that edge off. So I can get some of my smaller flowers in there. Or you can purchase, well, you can't with this line, I'm sorry. G45 does have flowers that you can buy with the paper lines. So what I'm basically doing is just looking through all my scraps. And I'm just going to cut quite a few here that I feel go. And actually, I think we'll go ahead with this. Now you can do flowers a couple of different ways. If you want a softer look, you can actually use a mister. And I just get these at Joann's, fill them with water. You can mist your flowers. A lot of people do that with the graphic 45 paper. I'll be honest with you, I don't like to. Graphic 45 and water and me does not get along. Now what we're going to do is you just kind of want to look and decide which sides you want, because what we're going to do is we're just pinching our petals together. And this will work with any flower punch that you have. I have some other flower punches, and it works great with those too. So you just want to grab edge to edge. I put my finger there, bend up, and that's the way I make these flowers. And of course, you know, there's tons of different ways. I like this method when I'm wanting something that's really full and that I can keep stacking. And I also make my roses out of these. So we're just going to pinch on my other big ones. And you, like I said, if you're going to use your hot glue gun, it's really quick. You don't have to wait for anything to dry. And I'm just looking for the big petals. No, I think I'll use this side. And then after I get my flowers together, you can ink your edges. And you can decide, do you want your petals to be all the same? Are you going to have mixed flowers? Again, that's, you know, that's just your personal preference, of course. Okay, now we'll grab our hot glue gun. And you want to decide how do you want your flower to look? And I'm thinking that with the cover that I'm going to start with like a red on the bottom, and I just kind of do a preliminary stack. But I always take the one I want to end with and I set it off, because I'm going to start with these 4 and I actually might want to go bigger. And I just put my glue in the middle. And if you already are a pro at making flowers, then I apologize for making you sit through this step. And you may have a fabulous way of making flowers, and if you want to share, that would be awesome too. Just let me know. I would love to see your video. And like I mentioned, you just need to decide how full do you want your flower to be. And I love it when it starts to come up like that. So I'm going to go ahead with my last one. When it starts to come up like that, it really fills it in. But I am going to take now a small one, and I'm going to use it as my centerpiece. Now, if you want, you can really bend this in more, or I have some tools I use too, but I'm not going to use them. I'm just going to go ahead and do some bending of my flower. I'm going to put it right in the middle. And then for your center, I need to get a little more glue on this one. You know, you can use a stone, you can use beads. I'm going to use my chipboards, and in our chipboards we have these little buttons, and we have the little cherries that you can also use. Of course, they're not round, but I'm going to go ahead and, well, maybe I'm not, because I don't think I want that color. So let's get the beads out. So I'm going to go ahead with the silver. I'm going to put a silver bead in the middle. Now these won't be in your paper kit. Because everybody has a different flower method. And then I'll take my ink and I just loosely hold it in my finger and I just push it around. I go back the other way just to get the tips. I'm not concerned about getting each petal. If you want each petal, you can do them before you put your flower together. So we've got a large one made, and we're going to go ahead the same way with our small one. And I usually make 3 flowers to start, and then you can decide if you want more. And I like to make my smaller ones usually not quite as like we used one of everything. I usually just stick with 2. Sometimes I'll make one color. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to start with 5. Start with the next to last. And when you're putting your petals down, make sure you are alternating. So that you have the different variances there. Now again, you can decide what do you want to go in the center. And on this one, I think I'll just use a small pearl. Oh, it wants to stay with me. And you can put 2 and 3 pearls in there if you want. So let's get a look here. So I know I want to bring my flowers down here at the bottom. Yeah, I want to add another one. And I think we'll go a little more with this white. Well, that looks nice. Because we have that vintage, very vintage look if you're using the printout. Let's see. So I need to cut, it looks like I need to find one more scrap of the clocks. And you know what, I think I'll take that one out since I don't have another. And you know, you might want to add more color, but I already put the red in the other one. So, but I think we will add a red center. And if you're ever in between projects, just to sit and make flowers is a great way to have them ready when you are working on a project. And if you make them just out of plain paper, then you can always punch 1 or 2 extras. When after you're done working on your paper, add a printed one at the top, add one at the bottom, and then you've got the plain petals in between, and it looks really nice too. So you always have flowers ready at your disposal. And one reason I started making my own flowers is the expense. You can buy the Prima flowers, and looking for them on sale at Michael's. They're great, but you don't always get the colors that really go with maybe what you're using. And so I just decided I'm going to make my own. And I do have a video on making roses. So you can make your own roses. And it really does save a lot of money. And then you have a perfect match. to your project. So let's go ahead, and I am going to take this black one. I want to see how it looks. Might blend in too much. It does. So I'm going to use some red with this one. Kind of perk up the black and the white. And I'm just going to go around the edges on this one. I didn't on the other, but I'm going to on this one. Let's bring our cover back in. And now just set those so they interlock a little bit. And then we have, I had it already out, I thought. We have some chipboards. You have your chipboard elements. So we can start kind of adding those in, which they will go under our flowers. Let me just bring this over because we have quite a few to choose from. And then some leaves. Since we already have this wonderful green wallflower paper, I'm going to just cut out 4 leaves. Not sure if I'll use 4. And what I do with my leaves, then I just pinch them and I bend them up. So I just pinch and bend. Put my thumb there and bend those up. And then I use my hot glue gun. And then I put 2 together. And then you can lay them out to see where you want them. Now these definitely will need a little bit of the Distress ink. And then you can also just take your scissors or whatever you want. I use them to just round my leaf tips up a little bit or to the side. And then again, we just start laying those out. To see where we want them exactly to be. To see, you know, if you like the look. If not, of course, you can change it. And as to whether, oh, I don't think I want that. Fuzzy. All right, I think we'll bring that on over. So that's what I do. I just start laying things out, and when I use the double elements, like I call them double elements, where you get the frame, we're going to be using a pop dot on there, a couple of them actually, because we want to raise the center up, of course. And then again, you may not want to cover those vegetables. Totally, you know, your preference. And I don't know if I want to. So I think I might be bringing those up there. So see, it's just a lot of playing around to find out what it is that you like, and the different designs. And maybe you want to add some more chipboards or some buttons, which I already poked. There we go. So I think I'll just use my twine. I'm going to go through, get that tied through. And I personally like that cover. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. You might want to still play with yours a little bit more. See what you like. You also have, we also have the hot tomato. I was actually going to use it up on top, but now I think that might be just too much. So I might add it down here to our bottom. And so that is how a cover is born. That is how I play with my covers until I get the look that I'm wanting. And sometimes even after I find the look, then I go back through. And one reason is, let me show you one thing like this. I'm just using a cut apart sheet. And I'm going to see if no, I don't. We won't even really have any room. Doesn't go. But we could add something up there at the top. Again, personal preference. If you want to add it for more color, or if we moved our cover picture over a little bit, but I don't want to move mine. So I think I'll go ahead and leave that out. But I kind of like the look of something up there. And so I'm going to go ahead with this one. I'm going to remove, this is that 1 inch. And I'm going to cut that off, make it a little bit shorter. And I love using burlap, especially on these old vintage look albums. Or you can use a doily. You can add all kinds of fun things back there. So now what I'm going to do is, I like the look of that. I like this up there at the top. And then we have these little pop-outs that came with the Graphic 45. There's also the cherry. Not sure if I like that one. I think I do like that. It's just simple. But it just kind of adds something to the corner. So now what we have to do is we have to put everything on and try and remember where everything was. So I'm just going to actually move my clock over, and I move my flowers over. And I'm going to start with this little strip. Might be time for more ink. Now on my covers, I do use a lot of hot glue, because when you put paper, when you use hot glue to attach paper to paper, it really holds well. When you're on heavy stuff like this, and of course with the burlap, you do want something that's going to be strong. Okay, so I have the score tape, and I've got burlap everywhere. So I have this first row of dots, and if I remember right, and you can also take a picture with your camera or phone. Just gonna line that up right there. Hopefully it's not crooked. Then moving my stuff over, you can just take it off if you're pretty comfortable with putting it back on. Now one thing you're going to want to do first is the burlap pieces. Now what I do with my burlap when I'm using fibers like this, I just leave them there. I'm actually just going to put a piece of, thing of hot glue. Turn it over, but don't put your page down. There we go. Just kind of eyeball it. Then I'll do the same here, but I moved that, so we're good. I don't want that completely adhered down anyway. I want some looseness. And I already put my score tape. on my cover piece. And I'm using those dots to line things up. And it might look crooked. I'm at an angle with the camera. So now my next step is going to be, something fell. I'm going to go ahead and take my ink the edges of these dies. I won't worry about taking that out unless you want to put ribbon there, because we're putting the button on top. And I already got the cloth done. Now for the button, go ahead and punch those out. And using ribbon, twine, or whatever you choose. If I get in the camera for you, I'm just going to tie my bow. And then I'm going to start with my first big flower. Let me get up here in the camera. And I'm going to put it down with the hot glue. Hold it for just a moment. Then my next one, I'm going to make sure I push it up somewhat, up into the flower, so it looks like one, or that it's, growing together. Arrange my petals till I like the look of it. And I'll go back and play with it more. And then my other flower. Okay, that is, I knew I felt something drop. My leaves fell. It's okay. We have more. So I'm going to go ahead and put these two together. I'm just going to pick my flower up a little bit. Slide them down in there. You can put your flower on there first if you prefer. Now I need to cut mine just a hair. It will sit right on that edge. Or you can put it underneath, or you can just put it right across the top. Like so. And I am going to use the hot glue. When using hot glue, you do have to work fast. And then we have the clock. Oh, I forgot our cherries. And I have to admit, that's one thing that drew me to this line. I love the cherries, and we're starting to shred. Now I am going to put some more twine on here. Now when doing just a one hole like that, I know that sounds funny, a one holer, that's how I start mine, so that I get a bow that's going this way instead of this way. I'm going to pick this up just a hair so I can see where I want to put that down in. Sorry about that, so you can see what I'm doing. Now, that's a nice space where somebody can write. They can journal on that little spot. Then let's decide where we want our clock. And I am taking my hot glue just around the edge, around the center, I mean. And then on the clock, I'm going to use the pop dots. And I'm going to just put the 2 in the center, or center-ish. Got glue on me. Or you can use foam tape. Now I'm going to just make sure I have this the right way, because I'm going to put some hot glue right on those dots. And I don't use it's a low. My gun is set at low because I don't want it to melt the foam on those pop dots, for one thing. Okay, our button. Don't tell me I also lost our button. So we have our hot tamale. And our button right in front of me. So I am going to put my button first down on my hot tomato. Now on this one, I'm going to take a small pop dot, just because it's overlapping and it needs a little bit of to even out. And you may have to use some glue. Well, if these glue dots or pop dots, foam dots would stick as well as that paper does. So I'm going to put a little dot right there and then just all over my center. Hold it for a second. That up at the corner, or you could even add more flowers. You can still add, if you have some smaller flowers, to the front. So now that just got you started, and little instruction on if you've never made these flowers before. I think I will go ahead real quick and cut another leaf out, since they've fallen on the floor somewhere. And I want this to stick up. I think I do want a leaf there. There we go. Now, one thing I did, I wanted to keep it pretty much kind of muted. I wanted it to have that still old-fashioned look, but you may want to go a little bit brighter. I love the kind of tannish old look to the cover. So there's our cover. Now on the back, I mentioned before that I like to cut out the cards to put on the back. So I will go ahead and cut this 4x6 out, and I'll mat it, and I'll put it right in the center of the book. And then sometimes I'll stamp it on the bottom, so this card will be on the back, and then I might stamp with my stamp that says handmade by, and then the recipient or the giver can then write a note here to the recipient, and that's going to go on the back there. And so let's move to the front. All right, to the inside, sorry. So I mentioned earlier about possibly we might want to add a flower here. And I'm thinking, since we have room, but you want to make sure it's not going to get caught up inside of one of your pockets. And it just might. So I think we'll go up higher. And let's see what I have for some colors. And this isn't going to be a huge flower. It's just going to be a 2-petal flower. And I like the way that accidentally cut out. It says blessings, greetings, to go right there. And you can use your chipboards. Add a little more decoration if you like. And I'm just going to go with one of my silver, excuse me, silver centers. Little pinching. And this is also, you can do the water, and then when it dries, it'll be a little more crinkled. And it should be just fine now when it closes. Yep. So that's that part. Now, one thing you'll want to go back and do with your scraps of paper, because you should have plenty of scraps now, and you'll want to go ahead and mat. We have this huge tag that you can mat, and then if you did the double cover, we have this one. Or you can go ahead and mat it and then add a few recipe cards. And actually that would be really cute. And also, if you want to decorate this cover, like I said, I wouldn't go much further with the rest of these because they hopefully are going to be used. And now we need to decorate, or we need to mat this inside piece, and we'll mat it just like we did with our cherries when we went over these magnets. And then let's do our centerpiece, or the center of our album. Okay, well, I did it again. I did not have the record on. Oh, I am so sorry. Okay, let me back up. So now we're going to do the inside. And if you have purchased the paper kit, you'll have 3 yards of the gingham. And I guess I have to mess up really good on each video. What I did is underneath the paper, I just ran score tape down the middle and I attached my ribbon. And then this, I made the pen holder. Now I made mine up too high, which is okay. The pen's going to stick out. Now what I'm also going to do is, I meant to get to the store, but they have larger barrel pens than this one, and you can actually take your paper and you can match your pen. And I've seen them in even Walmart. Just, you get a bigger barrel and you just pop the end off and then you put your paper in. I'm not going to use this one because I don't care for the blue with this album. And you would want to bring your barrel down so that it doesn't, your pen won't stick out like mine. Now what I did to make this is I cut it 3 inches long by 1.5 inches wide, and then I just wrapped it around the pen. It's a little wider than this piece. And I put a small line of score tape. I used the 1/8 of an inch. Then I pulled my pen out. It was bigger. And then you have a barrel. Now to adhere it to the book, I used hot glue and I went back over the seam and then I put it down. But first, like I said, don't do like I did and I put it too close to the top. But it'll be okay. I'll get a pen that matches better. I meant for it to be down in the middle, so my pen was more inside of my book. So I hope you can figure out from there. If not, send me a message. And every recipe book needs to have a pen available. And I might even just get one of those little mini ones because that's going to stick out the top, which is okay. So now we're going to go ahead and put down the paper. Oh, we did put the paper. We did this. We're going to put down a decoration. So in your kit, if you did purchase the paper kit, you'll have the green and white gingham, and this was a piece that I had left. So I'm just going to add it to my piece of chipboard. I really need to get out my sewing scissors. This is not going to work too great. Let me just see if these are a little better. No, let me just grab my sewing scissors. I actually got to sew the other day, so they were over there. Okay, that's better. I try not to keep my sewing scissors around my paper, or otherwise I'll use them. So you want to have that down. Usually it would have been down even further because of the pen towards the bottom, but I can bring it up a little bit more. I'm just going to hot glue the back of it. Put that at an angle. And like I said, my barrel should have been down, but I was looking at the dots. And then the pen will go right there. Make sure that's good and sturdy, or good and stuck. Clean up my glue. Now, let's go ahead and flip our book over. Carefully, we have those flowers because we have to do this piece. Now for this one, I cut the back of a hot tomato, and I'm going to use the red check side. You can use either side, of course. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove. I'm going to double check my sizing after that mistake with the pen. We're good. Remove the score tape. Oh, before I do, I'm going to do just like I did when we made the cover. I'm just going to push that tape down around the magnet a little bit more. Because I did use so many magnets. Now I'm going to use my 1/2 inch score tape. I'm just going around the edges like we have been. And I do want to put 2 strips, only because it's on a flap that we're using to open and close our book. And it's going on the top of those magnets. Now, because we need to have some leverage, open my book all the way so we can push a little bit more. And we're just going to go on top of those magnets. And then you do want to work carefully around the magnets if you have a pointy foam folder and not rounded, because you will go right through where it's kind of poking up. You can use your fingers, but you do want to go around those magnets. And of course your edges. Now I'm going to set my book up. Well, for the camera, I guess I better lay it down. Let me see if you can see. Let me bring it up. Okay, so we have our ribbon that comes through the top. And I move my pen. Now I'm going to go ahead and make, actually, a knot. Now decide where you want it, how close to the top. And I'm just going to knot this before I make my bow. And then you should have another yard. And this is going to go right inside. Make sure it's pretty much even. And then we're going to grab both of them, make our bow. I don't like the way that's going. Well, doesn't want to play nice. Go over the top. I'm just going to separate. My loops. That's why I didn't want to play nice. It's all twisted. And then just play with it till you get a look that you like. And I'm going to cut off these ends to somewhat match that side. My choice, if I can find it, is to use I have a lighter. I know you can use fray stop, you can use whatever. I just take a cigarette lighter. So you get to see me play with fire. Just go over those edges. And you'll feel a bubble. Kind of melts the fibers. And then they don't fray. Such a large album, it's hard to see. And then just play with your bow until you like it. And once I somewhat get the look I'm looking for, because you'll notice it is kind of floppy, I use my hot glue gun underneath those knots onto the book. And just hold it for a minute and helps lay down a little bit flatter. And you can also get more of a I want you there look. And then if you have any loose ends, or if it's loose anywhere, just put some glue in between your knots. And then it should be just fine. Now I have a sunflower that I just love. And it is part of this collection. That's going to go right there. So that is also on your chipboards. Smearing the hot glue. This is also going to help my ribbon stay down. And you can use whatever you like. You might want to put, maybe you have some little sunflowers, or you have some other flowers that you just want to put at the hole. I'm just going to use one of the silver beads that matches the other flowers. Because I don't want to put another bow there. And now over here on this side, I'm not putting anything because it's going to get a lot of wear and tear and opening and closing. And I don't want to have a ribbon there or anything there basically. So there is the decorating of our mini album. And you just have a few other things to go back and do. And you should have plenty of your scrap papers for those. And that was your mats. And you, of course, can add more mats. And you might want to decide whether you want to, if you have the paper kit, if you're going to back, if you want to put cardstock on the back of these. Like I mentioned, I don't think I will. That way it gives more room for more things to be added. And you have a pen holder. Mine will stick up more, so I need to get a pen that matches really well. A beautiful closure. You got the whole front to decorate and have fun with. and I'd love to see your creations. So if you do anything different, or even if you do follow the instructions, I'd love to see what you do. So don't hesitate to either put a link, or if you're on Facebook on any of the groups I'm in, I'd love to see your album and how you created it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I didn't mess you up too much. And I have a surprise coming. I'm doing 2 more videos this month. And the next one I'm working on right now is called the Square Pumpkin. I'm really excited for this one. I think it's going to be adorable, and I can't wait to share the tutorial with you. So look for that in about a week and a half, or even sooner. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.